The endless void of space stretched in every direction, pierced only by the faint glow of stars and drifting patches of cosmic dust. Within this quiet gulf between solar systems, a lone human starship advanced steadily through the darkness with deliberate intent. The TCS Defiance was hardly a marvel by human naval standards, designed for exploration and research rather than for combat. Its scarred hull carried the record of countless expeditions through asteroid belts and across hostile environments. Each line etched on the plating spoke of discovery rather than battle. Captain Jake Sullivan stood tall on the bridge, eyes fixed on the star charts scrolling across the main screen. His weathered features reflected the steady confidence of a man who had spent long decades charting the unknown frontiers of space. The Defiance had been his command for 8 years, during which time the crew had mapped 17 new systems and established first contact with 3 alien civilizations. None had turned hostile, much to the quiet relief of Earth Command. Lieutenant Amy Peterson lifted her gaze from the comms console, youthful features tightened with focus. She had been scanning subspace frequencies for hours, intercepting rising waves of chatter in tongues the ship's processors had never parsed before. Translation routines worked relentlessly, piecing fragments of meaning from alien transmissions. "Captain, I'm detecting more of those signals," Amy reported, adjusting filters to clear away the static. "The system believes they're military in nature, but the structures of the language are entirely foreign. Whoever is transmitting isn't listed in our archives." Sullivan considered this in silence. The Defiance now traversed a sector humans marked as unexplored, though it was clear other civilizations had staked claims here already. That alone wasn't unusual, yet the intensity and urgency behind the alien chatter hinted at something beyond. Routine border patrols. Commander Lisa Harper turned from her tactical console, her expression sharp. As weapons officer, it was her duty to remain alert for threats, even in space thought to be uninhabited. Her scanners, her sensors had been tracking strange energy traces for nearly an hour. Patterns pointed to massive ships moving with military precision. "Captain, I'm detecting multiple contacts on approach," Lisa reported, fingers gliding rapidly over her tactical console. "At least a dozen, possibly 13. They're moving in formation, and their signatures suggest heavy armament. Whoever they aren't trying to stay hidden." Sullivan stepped calmly to the bridge's center, hands folded behind his back. He knew from experience that first contact moments could go in many directions, and composure was vital for projecting peaceful intent. Though the Defiance carried enough firepower to defend herself, Earth doctrine always emphasized diplomacy as the first step. "Amy, initiate communication with the inbound ships," Sullivan ordered. "Run standard first contact protocols and make it clear we come in peace. Lisa, keep weapons cold but ready. I don't want to look hostile, but we won't be caught unprepared." The comms officer began transmitting across wide frequencies, broadcasting the universal emblems of peace and friendship Earth had refined through decades of exploration. Messages contained mathematical constants and physics markers to prove intelligence without menace. Amy also sent the Defiance's registry and mission logs, hoping openness might ease suspicions from the aliens. Tense minutes dragged before. The vessels emerged on the main display. They were colossal, each easily twice the Defiance's size and bristling with gun ports and turrets. Their designs were utterly alien, sleek hulls with organic patterns that shimmered like molten metal. The lead warship dwarfed the rest, its surface marked with intricate glyphs, perhaps symbols of command or rank. "Captain, they're answering our hail," Amy said quickly, then frowned as she parsed the transmission. "The system's struggling to translate, but I believe they're ordering us to halt and prepare for boarding. Their tone isn't friendly." The display flickered, now showing the interior of an alien command bridge. A towering reptilian being appeared, its scaled flesh shifting from green to gold under artificial light. Its massive eyes gleamed with contempt as it surveyed the human vessel. When it spoke, its voice was deep and commanding, carrying weight even through translation. "I am Admiral Korth of the Zeparian Empire," the alien declared with cold authority. "You have trespassed into sovereign Zeparian territory without sanction and in violation of our laws. Your vessel will submit to immediate boarding and inspection. Your crew will be detained for questioning." Sullivan stepped forward, outwardly composed despite the threatening tone. He had faced territorial disputes before and knew that blending strength with diplomacy was the best course. "Admiral Korth, I am Captain Jake Sullivan of the Earth ship Defiance. We were unaware this space was claimed by your empire. We travel on a peaceful mission of exploration and intend no harm. If we have trespassed unknowingly, we apologize and request safe passage back to neutral ground." The alien admiral's expression remained hard, though his posture suggested amusement at perceived human frailty. Behind him, Zeparian officers could be seen readying boarding gear and weapons. Clearly, Korth had already chosen the outcome. "Your ignorance of our laws is no justification for violating them," he snarled. "The Zeparian Empire has conquered 17 species across 3 systems. Your fragile vessel and crew will serve as valuable specimens. You have 1 minute to drop shields and prepare for boarding, or we will cripple you by force." Lisa. Harper's tactical scans confirmed enemy ships shifting into attack posture, their weapons surging with immense energy. The readings were staggering. Even a single Zeparian warship carried destructive output, capable of flattening a city. A full squadron of 12 represented a catastrophic threat, even against a fortified human colony. "Captain, they're not bluffing," Lisa warned. She reported grimly. "Those ships are armed with heavy military systems, and they're maneuvering into coordinated attack positions. If they strike together, the situation will be dire." Sullivan weighed his choices with care. The Zeparians had made their hostility plain, and diplomacy seemed unlikely given their demands. Yet Earth's first contact doctrine stressed restraint, avoiding violence whenever possible. A war with an unknown alien power would ripple far beyond this moment. "Amy, send priority. Traffic to Earth Command via the quantum link," Sullivan ordered. "Advise them we've encountered a hostile alien empire and may be forced into battle. Attach all sensor readings of these Zeparian warships." The comms officer's hands flew across her console, encrypting the message with maximum priority. Quantum transmission would deliver it instantly across any distance, ensuring that even if they fell, Earth would be warned of the danger. On the screen, Admiral Korth's visage returned, reptilian features twisted into what looked like a smile. His crew behind him moved with confident precision, preparing for what they clearly believed would be an effortless triumph. "Your time has expired, humans," Korth declared with cold satisfaction. "Since you refuse to yield, we shall seize your vessel by force. Try not to damage yourselves too much when our weapons strip away your primitive defenses." The channel cut, leaving silence hanging over the Defiance's bridge. Sullivan glanced at his crew, noting their steady focus and quiet resolve despite the impossible odds. The ship might appear outmatched beside the vast Zeparian fleet, but she carried strengths these aliens could never anticipate. "All hands, this is the captain," Sullivan called over internal comms. "Enemy vessels are preparing to attack. You all know your duties. Stay calm, follow your training, and we'll see this through together." Beyond the hull, the Zeparian formation tightened, weapons charging with lethal brilliance as they readied to demonstrate the Empire's power. The first salvo erupted from the fleet, blazing across the void like a newborn sun. Korth had ordered, disabling fire, shots meant to cripple the human ship rather than obliterate it. The aliens wanted captives for study, not debris scattered across the stars. 12 colossal beams hammered the TCS Defiance at once, each strike potent enough to burn through the plating of any vessel known. Zeparian armaments represented centuries of conquest, perfected through wars with countless species across 3 systems. No adversary had ever survived a synchronized barrage from the Imperial fleet. Captain Jake Sullivan braced, waiting for the jarring shudder that came when shields buckled under strain. Yet the bridge stayed perfectly still, as if untouched. The lights did not flicker, gravity fields held steady, and none of the alarms that should have been blaring sounded at all. Chief Engineer Danny Brooks glanced up from his station with baffled surprise. He had been watching the defensive grid, anticipating enormous power drains as the shields absorbed the onslaught. Instead, his readouts showed almost any fluctuation, as though the Zeparian barrage had been little more than dazzling light. "Captain, shields absorbed the strike without strain," Danny reported, his voice edged with disbelief. "Power draw increased less than 2%. Whatever weaponry they're using, it's ineffective against our defenses." Lieutenant Amy Peterson leaned closer to her console, listening intently to the flood of chatter erupting among the Zeparian ships. Translation algorithms raced to keep pace with the storm of alien voices. Even without perfect clarity, their confusion was obvious. "Sir, they're broadcasting status reports across multiple bands," Amy said, adjusting filters. "They're stunned their attack had no effect. Admiral Korth is demanding answers from his captains. And every report says the same thing. Direct hits, 0 damage." Commander Lisa Harper studied her tactical readouts, eyes narrowing as the enemy. Vessels shifted position for another salvo. Their weapon outputs were spiking sharply, evidence they were charging to maximum capacity. Korth, it seemed, refused to accept the failure of his warning shots. "Captain, they're charging for a full-scale strike," Lisa warned, her hands hovering above the weapons console. Energy profiles indicate they're preparing to unleash everything. No holding back this time. On the view screen, the Zeparian fleet shimmered like a constellation of furious stars, their weapon systems flaring to deadly intensity. Each warship was a testament to centuries of destructive mastery, boasting enough power to scour a planet's surface to molten slag. Their combined barrage could annihilate a human metropolis with ease. Sullivan observed their maneuvers with composed resolve, confident that his ship could endure whatever storm approached. The Defiance had been constructed for the extremes of deep space, radiation storms, asteroid impacts, and hostile environments lethal to lesser craft. Its defensive network was engineered with redundancies so robust they bordered on invulnerability. The second barrage erupted with blinding brilliance, flooding the display with waves of annihilation. The Zeparian fleet fired in unison, their combined fury blazing bright enough to be seen across neighboring systems. The raw firepower embodied the might of an empire that had subjugated 17 alien peoples. Yet again, the Defiance sailed on unscathed. Her shields absorbed the devastating torrent without so much as a flicker, treating it like ambient radiation. Crew members continued their duties calmly, unshaken by the spectacle. Danny Brooks shook his head in stunned disbelief as his console confirmed the impossible. The second barrage dwarfed the first in scale, yet the defenses handled it with the same casual ease. Impressive by galactic standards or not, the alien arsenal lagged centuries behind human design. "Captain, that volley was at least 50 times stronger than the first," Danny said, awe in his tone. "And our shields barely noticed. Energy draw maybe 5%, no more. Their weapons are crude by comparison. Our systems were built to counter such attacks automatically." Admiral Korth's image filled the screen once more, but his scaled features now showed unease, even doubt where arrogance had been. Behind him, Zeparian officers scrambled at their stations, reporting readings their instruments could not justify. The human vessel drifted untouched, impervious to an assault that should have shattered it into dust. "Impossible," Korth hissed, his voice reverberating with disbelief. No vessel can endure the unified firepower of the Imperial fleet. Your shields should have collapsed under the first barrage. What kind of defensive technology do you wield? Captain Sullivan stepped forward, his calm composure unwavering despite the brutal assaults his ship had just endured. He saw the first, flickers of fear in the alien admiral's eyes, displacing the swagger of their earlier exchange. The Zeperians were beginning to grasp that they faced something beyond their reach. "Admiral Korth, we sought peace from the beginning," Sullivan said evenly. "Your attacks failed because our civilization learned how to build properly. We desire no war, but we will defend ourselves if forced." The Admiral's expression twisted, confusion darkening into panic as the truth settled in. If their most potent weapons could not so much as scratch this lone vessel, what did that imply of human strength as a whole? The Zeperian Empire had thrived on superior arms and advanced engineering, but beside these strangers, they were children playing at war. "You speak as though such defenses are commonplace," Korth said, unease breaking through his voice. "But that technology is impossible. No empire we've met has shields that can absorb our volleys without even a tremor." Lisa Harper glanced at her captain, her silent look asking for leave to prove exactly why the enemy barrages had been meaningless. The Defiance's weapon systems, though designed for exploration, were centuries beyond what the Zeperians fielded. They were modest, intended for asteroid clearing and pirate deterrence, not true military guns. Yet to the aliens they would seem like godfire. Sullivan weighed the decision carefully. Earth doctrine demanded peace first, but the enemy had already fired twice without provocation. Perhaps a controlled display would persuade them away from further violence. "Commander Harper, target their flagship," Sullivan ordered softly. "Use only point defense. This is a warning, not a declaration of war." Lisa's hands danced swiftly over her console, activating the defensive grid. The point defense was meant for intercepting debris and missiles, not dueling capital warships. It was the weakest weapon they carried, barely a step above a mining laser. "Target acquired, Captain," Lisa reported. "Point defense charged and standing by." The pulse that left the Defiance was nearly invisible against the star field, a narrow spear of coherent light, insignificant compared to the monumental salvos the Zeperians had hurled. It struck the enemy flagship squarely, passing through shields and plating as though they weren't there. For a heartbeat, nothing appeared to happen. Then the colossal warship ceased to exist, its structure blossoming into incandescent plasma. Where once a kilometer-long vessel had sailed with thousands aboard, now only a luminous cloud of vapor drifted. The surviving 11 ships immediately scattered, their formations collapsing as shock overtook their discipline. Emergency chatter filled the channels, panicked voices crying warnings in tongues the Defiance's systems had never translated before. Sullivan watched the chaos with mingled regret and grim satisfaction. He had never sought destruction, but Korth's hubris had forced his hand. Now, perhaps, the Zeperians would listen to reason, rather than let arrogance guide their guns. "Amy, attempt to reopen communication." The fall of Korth's flagship spread through known space like fire racing across dry plains. Within hours of the shattered fleet limping home, alarm signals leapt across subspace to every major power within reach. The tale was the same wherever it arrived. One human ship had annihilated the Empire's greatest warship with a strike so advanced it defied comprehension. In the towering spires of the Marduk hegemony, Supreme Commander Vey studied the data stream with mounting disbelief. The Marduk had fought bloody wars against the Zeperians for 2 centuries. They knew all too well how formidable Korth's flagship had been. That a lone vessel could erase it in an instant seemed beyond reason, yet the evidence was undeniable. "This cannot be true," Commander Vey growled before his gathered staff officers, his hands cutting through the glowing projections of the holographic battle display. The Zephyrians had to be fabricating the report to excuse some humiliating defeat. No culture in known space wielded weapons of such overwhelming destruction. Yet even as BX made the claim, he knew Admiral Kor had no reason to invent such a story. The Zephyrian Empire took immense pride in its unmatched military dominance, and acknowledging failure before an unknown adversary would shatter their prestige across the stars. If this report carried truth, then humanity represented a danger, unlike anything the galaxy had ever encountered. Far across the spiral arm, within the crystalline metropolises of the Celestial Consortium, High Counselor Zara read similar transmissions with equal doubt. The Consortium considered their advanced science and technology a shield no lesser race could pierce, their intellectual supremacy an insurmountable barrier to others. The suggestion that an obscure species had engineered weaponry beyond their comprehension disturbed them deeply. "Assemble our foremost military analysts," Zara commanded, her lyrical voice edged with unease. "I want a comprehensive assessment of these human capabilities. If these accounts are accurate, we must understand the threat." Throughout known space, dozens of smaller civilizations intercepted the warnings and began their own frantic responses. The Helix Confederation ordered its fleets to combat readiness, while the Spiral Alliance recalled explorers from distant systems. Even races who had never heard of the Zephyrian Empire braced themselves, fearing the mysterious humans might soon reach their borders. On Earth, Admiral Patricia Kane sat in her office overlooking the vast headquarters complex of the Colonial Defense Force. Quantum relays had carried Captain Sullivan's report only hours earlier, and she still wrestled with its implications. First contact with a hostile alien empire had ended in both triumph and alarming consequences. Lieutenant Colonel Ryan Murphy entered without waiting for leave, the urgency of his expression betraying his message. As Earth's military liaison for alien affairs, Murphy had spent hours dissecting the Defiance's combat data and preparing policy responses. "Admiral, we have a problem," he announced, setting a datapad firmly on her desk. "Our intelligence intercepts show massive fleet mobilizations across this sector. At least 6 major powers are on the move, and their vectors point toward us." Kane scrolled through the reports, her face hardening with every page. The galaxy's reaction was far more dramatic than anyone had feared. The fall of a single Zephyrian warship had sent tremors through interstellar society. "How many vessels?" she asked, already suspecting the grim answer. "Current estimates exceed 300 from multiple species," Murphy replied. "The Zephyrians call it a defensive pact to contain humanity. They're claiming we pose an existential threat to galactic order. Colonial governors across human space received urgent alerts, warning of imminent attack. On the frontier colony of New Montana, Governor Steve Johnson convened his senior staff to plan evacuation for 2 million civilians. The world's defenses consisted only of a small patrol flotilla and untested ground batteries. Commander Beth Adams, the governor's military aide, studied fleet movements on the tactical overlays. The combined armada represented more firepower than humanity had ever endured, and there was no assurance other ships could repeat Defiance's success. "Governor, civilian evacuation must begin immediately," Adams urged, her tone firm despite the gravity. "If even part of that armada arrives, our defenses will collapse." Johnson gave a slow nod, understanding the disruption would cripple the colony's progress, but human survival outweighed years of sacrifice. Meanwhile, the alien coalition swelled larger. The Zephyrian Empire, Marty Syndicate, and Celestial Consortium buried centuries of conflict to confront what they now believed a mutual peril. Dozens of smaller states pledged ships as well, convinced unity meant survival. Admiral Kor, chastened but still commanding, found himself in charge of the greatest fleet in galactic history. More than 300 warships, crewed by races long divided, now massed at the edge of Zephyrian territory. Their determination was singular: stop humanity's advance into the heart of civilization. "We face an enemy beyond precedent," Kor declared before the assembled commanders, his hologram looming tall. Their weapons surpass our knowledge, but they remain mortal and can be crushed by overwhelming force and coordinated strategy. The alien leaders listened with unease as Kor outlined the plan for containing the human menace. Some believing overwhelming force would succeed where smaller strikes had failed. Some alien leaders pressed for total war, while others whispered fears that provoking an unknown species might be reckless. Captain Jake Sullivan, now aware of the massive alien coalition forming in response to his ship's encounter, felt the weight of history pressing down on him. What had begun as a single diplomatic contact had spiraled into the possibility of humanity's first galactic war. The choices made in the coming days would decide the fate of human expansion into the stars. On Earth, leaders scrambled to prepare for what seemed inevitable. President Maria Santos held emergency sessions with her cabinet as military strategists calculated how many starships could defend scattered colonies. The Colonial Defense Force could muster fewer than 50 vessels with interstellar reach, a number laughably small compared to the alien armada gathering at humanity's frontier. But as the Defiance had shown, quality outweighed quantity. Every human ship carried technology centuries ahead of anything alien fleets possessed. Lieutenant Colonel Murphy worked tirelessly with intelligence services, gathering fragments of data about enemy movements and capabilities. The picture revealed alien governments driven not by conquest, but by fear. They could not understand how their most powerful weapons had failed against human defenses. "Admiral, we've received offers from neutral powers," Murphy reported in one briefing. "They want to mediate talks between us and the coalition, but they warn this situation could explode into a galaxy-wide war. One wrong move by either side, and the whole spiral ignites." Admiral Kane weighed the message with care. Diplomacy was always preferable, but to appear weak in the face of threats might invite further attacks. The razor-thin balance between restraint and strength would determine how humanity survived its trial by fire. Across alien worlds, billions watched their governments march toward conflict with a species they scarcely understood. Humans had appeared from nowhere, wielding impossible technology and openly ignoring galactic hierarchies. Fear and uncertainty dictated policy, even on planets that had never imagined their security could be shaken. On New Montana, a frontier colony, civilian transports launched skyward, carrying evacuees toward safer systems. Governor Johnson stood at his window, watching the steady climb of engines into the night. He prayed it would prove unnecessary, but he knew precaution was the only shield left to his people. At the galactic frontier, the alien armada arrived in force. 312 warships from 17 civilizations dropped from hyperspace like a swarm of hornets stirred from a nest. Their combined firepower represented the greatest military coalition in recorded history. Admiral Kor stood aboard his new flagship, surveying the armada with grim pride. Yet their scans revealed no human defense fleets, only scattered transports plying peaceful routes between colonies. The emptiness unsettled the coalition more than an enemy fleet would have. "Where are their warships?" demanded Supreme Commander Vex of the Martuk hegemony, gesturing furiously at the tactical display. "No civilization builds a vessel like the one that annihilated your fleet without having dozens more in reserve. They must be hiding them." Kor studied the readouts with unease. Humans had already demonstrated weapons that should not exist. Yet their territory seemed shockingly bare. Either this was an elaborate trap, or the coalition still misunderstood human military doctrine entirely. Far deeper inside human space, one vessel received the alert of the enemy's arrival. The TCS. Vengeance was hardly remarkable by human standards, designed for colonial support and cargo rather than war. Captain Tony Mitchell had been delivering medical shipments to frontier colonies when Earth Command abruptly redirected him toward an incoming alien threat. "Captain, we've received priority orders from Colonial Defense," reported Navigation. Officer Kelly Brown, her voice edged with unease at the sheer weight of the mission assigned to them. "Admiral Caney requests that we intercept the alien fleet and attempt a diplomatic resolution before they strike any civilian settlements." Mitchell gave a calm nod, though inwardly he questioned the wisdom of deploying a lone support vessel against hundreds of warships. The Vengeance carried only standard defenses and multi-purpose gear, hardly a fleet combatant against such overwhelming odds. Commander Greg Phillips glanced up from the weapons console, expression one of detached professionalism. As tactical officer, he had examined the sensor records from the Defiance's clash with the Zephyrans and found it enlightening, almost amusing, that the aliens considered their crude energy cannons advanced technology. "Sir, I've reviewed our defensive profile against their weapons," Phillips reported with steady assurance, fully aware of their true potential. "Based on the signatures from the prior engagement, their firepower should pose no serious threat to our systems." Meanwhile, the alien armada pressed deeper into human space, their scanners sweeping restlessly for hidden fleets they were certain must exist. Coalition admirals had drafted complex strategies on the assumption humanity fielded vast militaries. Yet none of those plans accounted for the grim possibility that they were chasing shadows. "This defies reason," said High Counselor Zara of the Celestial Consortium during a fleet conference. "A species that can construct vessels of such sophistication would never leave its core exposed. We are missing some critical element." Admiral Core himself was beginning to sense that truth, though he could not pinpoint the flaw. Human defenses appeared genuinely feeble, mere satellites and planetary shields, primitive compared to the Defiance's performance. For long hours, the alien fleet advanced unopposed. Some officers speculated that humanity had abandoned its colonies. Others feared an unseen ambush. The uncertainty weighed heavier than battle. Then, sensors flagged. A lone contact inbound from human space. The vessel was small, its signatures disturbingly recognizable. With rising alarm, they realized it was another human ship. The TCS Vengeance decelerated with precision, her crew moving with practiced efficiency. Captain Mitchell studied the tactical overlay, hundreds of hostile icons in proud formation. "Kelly, set an intercept course for their flagship," he ordered calmly. "Greg, weapons cold but primed. We tried diplomacy first, but I doubt they want conversation." Alien commanders stared in disbelief as the solitary ship advanced without hesitation. Some muttered about suicide tactics, others feared human. Confidence stemmed from terrifying unknowns. Admiral Core opened a channel, reptilian features contorted with arrogance that had broken countless foes. Zephyran crews readied weapons and boarding gear, convinced their numbers would guarantee success where brute force had failed. "Human vessel," Core announced, his voice booming. "You are outnumbered and outgunned. Surrender now, and your crew will be spared under the laws of war. Persist, and you will be destroyed with your colonies." Captain Mitchell's image flickered onto alien displays. His composure was unwavering despite the overwhelming odds. Years against raiders and hostile species had taught him that confidence could disarm more effectively than firepower. "Admiral Core, I am Captain Tony Mitchell of the Earth vessel Vengeance," he replied steadily. "You are trespassing in human space and endangering civilian lives. Withdraw at once and no further action is required." Alien commanders erupted in derisive laughter, their various species chorusing from melodic whistles to harsh, guttural barks. That a single human craft could challenge their grand armada seemed absurd, either suicidal arrogance or naive ignorance. "Captain Mitchell, you face over 300 warships, the combined might of 17 civilizations," proclaimed Supreme Commander Vex, gesturing triumphantly to tactical displays. "Even should your vessel match the impossible defenses, Of the earlier human ship, you cannot prevail against such crushing numbers. Mitchell weighed the statement briefly, acknowledging the logic of their position. From their viewpoint, numerical superiority meant certain victory, but their assumptions bore no resemblance to reality. "Commander Phillips," he said quietly, "are you ready to demonstrate their error?" Mitchell asked his weapons officer, who replied with professional composure. The alien fleet unleashed its firepower in perfect unison, producing the most dazzling display ever witnessed in galactics. Conflict. 312 warships fired at full capacity, saturating the void around the Vengeance with enough force to erase a dozen planets. The combined barrage carried the destructive might to reduce Earth's moon into drifting particles. Yet when the energy storm finally cleared, the TCS Vengeance remained unscathed, calmly holding position as if nothing had transpired. Its shields hadn't even dimmed. The titanic onslaught was reduced to little more than cosmic background noise, ignored entirely, as ship systems functioned without interruption. The silence that followed struck deeper fear than any weapon ever could. Alien commanders stared in stunned denial, unable to fathom how their strongest armaments had no impact whatsoever. Some suspected sensor failure, while others whispered of supernatural interference. Captain Mitchell let the oppressive silence linger before responding. When he spoke, his tone was that of a patient tutor addressing misguided students. "Admiral Korith, you have just illustrated why your assumptions about warfare are dangerously misguided," he said calmly. "Now let me show you how a single human ship can defeat overwhelming numbers." Commander Phillips activated the ship's primary multi-purpose array, originally created for mining tasks. The alien armada shattered, escape pods scattering, like seeds cast across the stars, carrying tales that would overturn every belief regarding weapons and power that the galaxy had clung to for ages. Survivors recounted impossible defenses and weapons that reduced their most advanced achievements to the level of primitive tools. Many dismissed the accounts as madness or lies designed to excuse failure, but Dr. Jara of the Celestial Consortium was not among them. As her civilization's foremost military scientist, she accessed sensor data from both encounters with humans, and the truth was irrefutable, even if it shattered her understanding of physics. Her study of the wreckage revealed findings both thrilling and horrifying. "The energy signatures are unlike anything recorded in our archives," Dr. Jara declared before the Galactic Council, her voice layered with awe and unease. "The humans are not relying on conventional arms or defenses. Their technology functions on principles unknown to us." High Counselor Vex of the Martaigamani leaned forward, his four arms gesturing in incredulity. His people took pride in their mastery of warfare and innovation, but the reports suggested they were centuries behind. "You are saying a single human vessel destroyed more than 300 of our finest warships using what amounts to mining equipment?" Vex pressed, his voice strained with disbelief. "How can any civilization achieve such supremacy without our intelligence networks discovering it?" The question weighed heavily, exposing the weakness of galactic knowledge. Humanity had appeared, from obscurity, wielding power that rendered the military might of 17 species as nothing more than children's games. On Earth, however, the colonial defense force wrestled with a different crisis. The alien armada's annihilation resolved the immediate threat, but spawned diplomatic and strategic upheavals beyond precedent. Director Helen Carter sat in her office reviewing reports from across human space, searching for policies to address a situation unprecedented in history. Strategic Chief Paul Davis entered, presenting a data pad with the latest intelligence. The alien response to defeat was crystallizing, and the emerging trends carried both promise and peril for humanity's future. "Director, we are receiving overtures from more than 40 civilizations," Davis reported, placing the pad on her desk. Most propose treaties of friendship or neutrality, while others request immediate military alliances against rival species. Carter studied the flood of messages, detecting desperation woven through them. Civilizations that had been unaware of humanity mere weeks before were now offering everything from trade to territory in exchange for human protection, or at least neutrality. Defense analyst Commander Nathan Wells had been working tirelessly to evaluate the strategic impact of humanity's sudden rise as the galaxy's foremost military power. His initial assessment indicated that the balance of power across known space had shifted profoundly, with consequences that would take decades to fully unravel. "Director, we must make critical choices regarding our role in galactic affairs," Wells stated during the morning briefing. "Every major civilization now regards us as the dominant force in this region. How we answer their approaches will shape the political order of the galaxy for generations." The burden was immense. Humanity had never intended to ascend as a galactic superpower, yet their unmatched technology had forced them into that role. The decisions in the coming weeks would impact billions across dozens of civilizations. Captain Jake Sullivan of the TCS Defiance found himself at the center of these pivotal events after Earth Command appointed him humanity's military representative to the Galactic Council. His fateful encounter with Admiral Kor had set these events in motion, and his experience with alien powers made him the logical choice for diplomacy. The emergency council session was held in neutral territory aboard a vast station used for diplomacy for a millennium. Delegates from dozens of species gathered to confront what many deemed the greatest threat to galactic stability in history. Sullivan appeared before them via holographic projection, his calm presence radiating the professionalism that had served him well in past encounters. The delegates regarded him with fear, curiosity, and a fragile hope for peace. "Honored representatives," Sullivan began, his voice steady through the chamber's translators, "I stand before you to address concerns arising from recent clashes between human vessels and various military forces." The hall fell into tense silence as he clarified humanity's position. He stressed that humans had not sought conflict and that every action had been defensive. The destruction of alien fleets had been necessary to safeguard human lives and territory, not to pursue conquest. "We understand our defenses appear overwhelming compared to galactic norms," Sullivan continued, his words unsettling many delegates. "But I must correct a widespread misconception." The assembly leaned forward, desperate to hear. Some still prayed humanity's technology had exploitable limits, while others sought any understanding of their hidden strength. "The vessels encountered in these battles are not warships," Sullivan revealed, the words striking the chamber like thunder. "The TCS Defiance is a research craft for deep exploration. The TCS Vengeance is a cargo hauler for colonial supply. Neither was built for war." The silence that followed was crushing. Delegates stared, their disbelief shifting into horror as the implications struck. If such civilian vessels could annihilate fleets, what then of true human warships? Dr. Jara finally spoke, her voice trembling with both awe and dread. "Captain Sullivan, you mean cargo ships and research vessels wield power surpassing our most advanced militaries by orders of magnitude? Then what do your actual warships carry?" Sullivan paused, weighing how much to reveal. Earth Command had permitted limited disclosure if it might prevent disaster, but alien morale was fragile. "The Colonial Defense Force is completing its first purpose-built military vessel," he answered carefully. "The TCS Retribution, designed for fleet and planetary combat, exceeds civilian craft by roughly the same margin civilian ships exceed your current militaries." The implication was undeniable. If human freighters could erase fleets, their warships could scour entire systems. The technological gulf was beyond overwhelming. It was immeasurable. High Counselor Zara of the Celestial Consortium finally spoke, her tone betraying desperation. Captain Sullivan, what does humanity demand to preserve peace with the galactic community? We are prepared to grant whatever concessions are required. Offers flooded in at once. Trade pacts, territorial claims, technology exchanges, cultural alliances, each more extravagant than the last.